What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is something new, isn't it?
Yeah, because I just literally read the title and I thought, what's new about it? But now I know what's new about it.
Yeah, the history of Canada explained in 10 minutes. Now, we have done a few Canadian videos before, but this, we haven't done this one.
This is just Canada.
Just Canada. We're going to learn a little bit about it as well, which is awesome. And,
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, smash that like button if you're from anywhere in the world. Why not?
Not just Canada.
I'm just covering all bases. Or you know what? Even if you're not in the world, just smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button as well. Why
if you're not in the world, please let us know where you are.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Could be aliens. Imagine if an alien's watching this.
Anyway, the history of Canada explained in 10 minutes.
That's what we got today. Smash that like button, smash the subscribe button. Let us know if you want us to do some more Canadian content. We're open to learn more, aren't we? It's been awesome doing America. We're going to keep doing America. Maybe even Mexico. A few people have said Mexico as well, so we're going to be branching out a little bit.
But, I mean, before we start, Canada's not really setting a good name for itself because it says explained in 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute 3-second video.
Ooh. Yeah, but it's a 3-second intro, maybe.
Well, it better be.
Let's see. Can't be going 3 seconds over.
No, it's not 10 minutes. It's
10 minutes, 3 seconds.
10 minutes, 3 seconds. And every second counts, no?
If you ever watch us, got changed the title.
Anyway, that was like a 10-minute intro, so...
There we go.
Let's go.
Let's get straight into the history of Canada explained in 10 minutes and 3 seconds. What we got?
Fair enough.
I guess it's,
It wasn't really doing any count.
Canada, known for their delicious maple syrup, and being home to nearly all of the greatest hockey players of all time, is the second largest nation on Earth, and with approximately 2 million lakes, contains over 50% of the freshwater lakes on the planet. For many thousands of years, this region was populated with many indigenous tribes of hardy people, capable of overcoming the severe and lengthy winters, thriving and developing unique cultures. The first non-native people to settle in Canada, and the New World in general that we know of for sure, were the Vikings. They built a settlement in Newfoundland around 1000 AD. It is unclear for exactly how long this settlement was occupied for, or if there was more, but ultimately it was either abandoned, pillaged, or its inhabitants succumbed to disease, or assimilated into the local population. But theories abound. Nearly 500 years later, in 1497, the Italian explorer Giovanni Capoto was the first European to explore North America's coast, claiming it for the English crown. Shortly after, the Spanish and the Portuguese would do the same, but remained uncolonized for several decades, with only a few seasonal Portuguese and Basque fishing outposts built, until the French arrived. Jacques Cartier claiming the land for France in 1534. He named the gulf and river after St. Lawrence's feast day on which he arrived. The French called the territory around the river Canada, after the native word for settlement. After several failed attempts at permanent settlement succumbed to starvation and disease, the cities of Quebec and Port Royal were successfully established. By 1670, the English colonies in the south had expanded, and new settlements were established in Newfoundland and south of the Hudson Bay. The fur trade, particularly in beaver pelts, became extremely lucrative, as it became the favored material for hat makers and luxury winter clothing in northern Europe. This greatly encouraged further northern settlement by both English and French fur trappers seeking to make a fortune. The French and the English did not peacefully coexist, with the French temporarily taking much of the territory around the Hudson Bay during the lengthy period known as the Beaver Wars. Not only the Europeans became wealthy and influential from the trade in beaver pelts. The Iroquois Confederation of 6 powerful tribes, armed with European firearms, initially allied with Dutch merchants, and then the English, to aggressively attack the French, and most other Indian tribes in the region to obtain more furs. Many of these tribes banded together with the French to halt Iroquois expansion. Peace was negotiated after 72 years of fighting, and many, mostly Indian lives lost. And little territorial...
72 years is an extremely long time to be fighting, isn't it?
That's really long.
Very long time. And the one what gets me is it's the second biggest country, but the population is smaller than England. I think.
It's not second biggest country.
It is.
Is it?
In land, yeah.
Oh.
Russia? Number one?
Russia's number one, yeah.
And then China. Not China. Canada.
I guess it is the biggest in land because they've got all the top bits. That's way
it's
bigger
absolutely
than
huge.
America.
It's a lot bigger than America, but America's like 340
It's more
million
populated,
people.
isn't it, America?
But I think it's like 90% of the 40 million. I'm guessing it's 40 million. Please correct me if I am wrong. Is on the border. Like 90% of that 40 million
yeah,
is
because
on
a lot
border.
of it's uninhabited, isn't it?
Pretty much, which is then
But-
mental.
Canada, if it's still part of Canada, and it's
Oh,
not,
yeah, it's
still Canada.
It's still massive, but part of it is mental to me. Like, you got all these tribes in these a long time ago, no technology compared to what we've got today, living in the unhabitedness, just getting on with it. That's brutal, isn't it?
It's not for me, that.
Different breeds.
Different breeds.
But 72 years for a war, extremely long.
Change. The region of New France was comprised of several colonies. Canada and Louisiana were the largest, along with the smaller Plaisance and Acadia, which the British Empire obtained from the French in the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713 in a complicated agreement concerning the War of Spanish Succession. France also recognized the legitimacy of the Hudson Bay Company's claim over Rupert's Land. Interestingly, the Hudson Bay Company is still in existence today, primarily as owners of a retail store chain, bearing their name. Despite their larger
I'd heard of it
territory,
before.
the French increasingly became outnumbered by the rapidly growing British colonies surrounding them, by a margin of 10-1 by the time the next major conflict between the two occurred. During the 7 Years' War, or the French and Indian War, as it has become known in much of North America, French-speaking Acadians were deported far from the Canadian borderlands, some of whom formed the basis of much of the Cajun population of modern-day Louisiana and New Orleans. Both English and French empires sent thousands of regular infantry to North America during the war, supported by local militias and Indian tribes. The greatly outnumbered French relied heavily on Indian allies and fought the British to a standstill early in the war, until the British successfully besieged the cities of Quebec and Montreal. Despite the French later defeating the British in a pitched battle, they failed to retake their capital city. In the treaty that ended the war soon after, France ceded Canada to Britain, while giving Louisiana territory to her ally, Spain. It is important to note at this time much of North America's non-coastal areas were still largely unpopulated, with many of the native tribes heavily depleted through warfare and invasive diseases from which they had little immunity. With a population of approximately 3 million, the American colonies waged a successful rebellion against the British Crown. A little over a decade later, the Americans attempted and failed to take Quebec, which remained loyal to Great Britain. After the war, many British loyalists moved north into Canada. During the following War of 1812, both British and American armies launched several failed invasions of each other's territory, ending in military stalemate, and the status quo was maintained. The treaties following the war established a more formalized border between the two nations. Despite the Canadians' desire not to join their American neighbors to the south, movements for self-rule increasingly grew among the Canadian lower and middle classes, culminating in the rebellions of 1837 and 38 that were severely dealt with and crushed, and saw the short-lived Republic of Canada established by William Lloyd Mackenzie. Despite the Republic's short-lived lifespan and diminutive size, widespread public support, not only from many Canadians, both French and English-speaking, but also from Americans to the south, spurred Great Britain's government to make major concessions in the rebellion's aftermath. The Act of Union in
Again, now we're getting on to like a little bit of how Canada and Great Britain start working. It's mental to me. Tell me if yours is different. We've got such close ties to Canada.
Yeah.
I hardly know anything about it. I never learned about our ties to Canada at school.
No, I didn't.
You didn't either. So,
Well, I kind of knew that it was at one point under the Commonwealth, the Queen.
yeah,
kind
I
of
think
all I
it still is. Is it still is part of the
Not
Commonwealth?
anymore.
It's not ruled by the Queen.
No, I don't think it
Is
that
it not
means- that means
anymore?
It's not then.
Okay, sweet.
But I knew it was when I was growing up.
There
so
we
I
go.
remember.
Yeah, there was always that connection, wasn't there? But didn't really learn about the history of it.
No.
So we may seem like idiots here not knowing this, because you may think, how do you not know it? Because Britain was
Yeah.
so involved.
And then, like, on my French side, I did know that they speak French. That is a...
Oh,
the
Canadian
main
French.
language
Yeah,
is-
we know about that.
But
Like
yeah.
Louisiana and stuff like that with
Yeah.
the Canadian. Because in New Orleans, in America as well, has a bit of Canadian French in there as well, just French language stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting.
Very
yeah.
interesting.
In 1840 united Upper and Lower Canada into the new province of Canada, and the granting of responsible government soon after allowed for a far greater degree of self-rule to be exercised by the elected representatives of the people. In 1846, the disputed Oregon Territory was peaceably divided between Great Britain and the United States, pretty much by drawing a straight line and giving Vancouver Island to Canada. Throughout the 19th century, A massive boom in the logging industry fueled large waves of immigration to Canada, gradually replacing the fur trade as Canada's most lucrative industry. In 1867, the British North America Act, or more commonly called the Constitution Act today, established Canada as a self-governing democracy with Ottawa as its capital city. To the west, the Hudson's Bay Company negotiated the sale of Rupert's Land to the newly formed Canadian government. The Métis people, of mixed European, primarily French, and Indian ancestry, were the largest population of the Winnipeg area of what is now Manitoba. Fearing the land they had held for generations would be seized by newcomers from the east, they rose in rebellion, creating a provisional government. And after a tense standoff, an eventual occupation by federal troops, many of their demands were met, respecting their rights. The leader of the rebellion, Louis Riel, would lead another larger but less successful rebellion 15 years later that ended with his trial and execution. Louis Riel became a martyr, or villain to many Canadians, his death increasing the tensions between Indian Métis, English, and French groups in society. Because of the key role the partially completed Transcontinental Railway played in the suppression of the rebellion, political support for completing it soared among English-speaking Canadians, and the railroad was completed in only 4 years from when it had begun. The 1890s saw the Klondike Gold Rush.
That railroad, what goes? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Let's have a because again, at least in America, we know the transportation's absolutely awful. Public transportation, at least, is no, but it is absolutely massive, isn't it? But you think the whole way across. Let us know. Is that one?
That'd be cool.
Is it still there? And two, does it work?
Yeah.
I guess that's do they actually run trains on it?
Yeah, because they may not. It may just be like a piece of history.
Piece of history. But that'd be pretty cool. Even if it took 24 hours to get to the other end or something, like just constant.
That's still cool though.
You could just run it, and then each day, it's going to be at this spot at that time. Or maybe it may take 48 hours. Every other day, this spot. And if you want to go across the country, that train's there, hop on it. That would be pretty cool. But let us know in the comments.
In which over 100,000 prospectors set out to the remote Yukon region in hopes of striking it rich. Some did, but most didn't. After several decades of stagnant population growth, largely due to emigration to the United States, Canada's population sharply increased due to a good economy and high foreign immigration throughout the early 20th century. During the First World War, Canada, still a dominion of the United Kingdom, sent 620,000 troops to fight in Europe. 67,000 would die, while another 173,000 would be wounded. The staggering casualty rate grieved and shocked the nation. The war had a strong impact on Canadian nationalism and the desire to self-govern its own international affairs, which they obtained when the British Parliament passed the Statute of Westminster in 1931, which acknowledged Canada's co-equal status with the United Kingdom. Between the World Wars, Canada was hit particularly hard during the Great Depression of the early 1930s, with unemployment rates reaching 25%, and many men living in unemployment relief camps. During the Second World War, over 1.1 million Canadians served in that brutal conflict that left nearly 100,000 of them dead or wounded. In 1949, Newfoundland became the last Canadian province to incorporate. In 1965, Canada adopted its current flag. Here's a selection of some of the other national flags that were proposed. Let me know in the comments.
I knew it was more like kind of slowly becoming their own country over time, but 1965.
That's not that long ago.
No, that is mental. That is pretty mental. They only got their flag then.
Which one do you think looks best? In 1982, the Canada Act passed the Parliament of the United Kingdom and was ratified by the Queen, granting Canada the right to create their own constitution, which they promptly did. Still recognizing the constitutional monarchy in a mostly ceremonial rule, the new constitution abolished the British Parliament's remnants of influence over Canada. Canada is now a nation of over 36 million people, where over 20% speak French as a first language, and has the 10th largest economy in the world. The province of Quebec has maintained a strong French influence over the centuries, and has on 2 occasions voted in referendums to decide whether Quebec should proclaim national sovereignty and become an independent country. In 1995, it very nearly did not pass, with secession still being an issue till this day. This has been Epimetheus. Let me know what you think down in the comments. What Canadian...
That was cool. That was interesting.
It was very interesting. I learned a lot there. Yeah. Again, I feel like I think we, off camera, will have to watch a couple more times just to get as much in as possible. But for 10 minutes, a lot packed in there.
Pretty good, yeah.
Let us know if you want to check any more Canadian videos out. Maybe it's differences, or maybe a bit more history, because I'd be keen to learn more. Or maybe more history on the British Canadian side of it, or something like that. Let us know in the comments, guys. If you enjoy it, smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, and what should we do?
Have a fantastic day.
We'll see you, legends, hopefully in the next one. Peace.